Order! Order in the court! We are here today to judge Stephen Moffat, whether he was a good showrunner or a bad showrunner. And today he is on trial. This is the court of Go Doctor Who, where we judge whether we send him into hell or we release him into Sherlock Land. Today we judge Stephen Moffat, whether he was a good showrunner or a bad showrunner. And how we will do that, we will collect points. He will gain points, and by the end of this video, he will be judged. Let the trial begin against Mr. Moffat.
Subscribe to Go Doctor Who. And if you don't, then you can go.
Hello, I'm here to stand for Mr. Moffat. And I am here to stand against Mr. Moffat. The point giver will give us the answer by the end of this video. So let's begin. I allow you to gain points, Mr. Colonel. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Moffat. My first case. Good luck. Yes, so we are going to be not judging Mr. Moffat in the Russell T Davies era. We will. Sorry, Mr. Moffat. We will be representing him for him as showrunner, and we shall begin that now. We will judge him with points for him, and you will be judging him against him, Your Honour. But yes, let's get into it. First up, we start off with the 11th hour. Now, the 11th hour was Mr. Moffat's first story as showrunner, and also he did plan on it being David Tennant that actually stays and gets regenerated and making it a timey-wimey event. But Mr. David Tennant decided to go out with Russell T Davies, meaning that Mr. Moffat had to rewrite this script, meaning he had to make it Matt Smith. And let's just say he deserves points for that alone. Yes, you're right. We shall give him 2 points for that. Someone keep charge of this and write it down so we don't lose track of the points. Yes, you're right. We shall give him 2 points for that. Someone keep charge of this and write it down so we don't lose track of the points. Your Honour, I shall be doing that. 2 points for 2, 4. Okay. Very good. Begin your trial. Thank you. Right, so, also the 11th hour created a new Doctor, and also a new companion, and also a side companion, meaning that he should get points for that as well. I think that we did get Rory introduced quite well in this story. Also, I think that Amy Pond was presented as this little girl in a fairy tale that waited too long and grew up. And we got to see that play out when the repercussions of that in this story. And I also think Matt Smith did wonderful and was well written in this story by Stephen Moffat. Yes, you're right. However, I will not be allowing points for Arthur Darvill's character, Rory. I believe he progressed later on and won't be talking about that in this, thank you very much. So I will present for Amy 2 points, for the Doctor 5 points, for Stephen Moffat. Thank you. Thank you. Next up we will be doing, he does enter the Beast Below, and we also get a futuristic UK, and we also get Victory of the Daleks showing the past, and making these writers write it on point, and Stephen Moffat makes this on point with his future and gets Mark Gatiss to write it in the past. And I think these stories work quite well and quite neatly so. Also, we have The Weeping Angel 2-parter, which I think are phenomenal and keep the fandom invested. And I think they deserve more points for that. And Vampires on Venice brings out Rory. and he gets on the TARDIS team. And I think Stephen Moffat letting Amy soak in and be the new companion, and then bringing Rory into it later on in the series actually helps. Unlike with later series like Chris Chibnall, the fact that he just brought all the companions all at once, and it felt like we didn't hardly know them. We took time throughout series 5 knowing Amy and then bringing Rory into it. And we get Amy's choice, which is certainly an interesting one and is very complicated. And then we get Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, showing how humanity can be the best and the worst they can be. Then we have Vincent and the Doctor, quite rightly so, one of the most best popular Doctor Who stories of all time. And then we go on to The Lodger with more comedic stuff. As the series has dealt with a lot of issues, we suddenly get to comedic issues with Craig as a similar companion. And Pandora Opens and The Big Bang certainly fulfills the finale. Your Honour. Yes, there is a lot to take from that. Well, I will be giving points for, but also against in your argument. So, The Beast Below was okay at average and won't be getting any points, but is an interesting one to show off the future. Victory of the Daleks, on the other hand, was a good story and showed the Daleks battling out. They will get 2 points for that, but you will get 2 points deducted. 2 points against Stephen Moffat because of the treachery Dalek design, and he must have seen it to show it on the TV. 2 points against Stephen Moffat. Order in the court. Next up, we have Time of Angels, Flesh in Stone. This is the first of River Song, and I think the Weeping Angels worked well. However, Amy jumping on the Doctor in the end. Also, there is reports of you, even Stephen Moffat, going against this and saying you wish you didn't write it in. So, for that, I give 5 against Stephen Moffat. Order in the court. And we give 2 for Stephen Moffat for The Weeping Angels and River Song working. Now we on to The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, an average story at best of a 2-parter that actually copied the classic episode in the John Pertwee era. Also, we do get to see humanity at its worst and best, so I will be giving 1 point for that, but 2 points against for copying an old episode. Next up is Vincent and the Doctor. 5 points for Mr. Moffat for that, and him letting that story go out and probably had stuff to do with that story. Next up we have The Lodger, an interesting one and a fun one, and I would say it is a good story but won't be getting any points. Next up we have Pandora Opens and The Big Bang. We will give 2 points for the Pandora for the cliffhanger and the build-up, but 5 points against Mr. Moffat for the monstrosity of The Big Bang. Now I will be taking of this series 6, a monstrosity at that. So, it is too Americanized and doesn't feel like Doctor Who. I will be giving 4 points against Mr. Moffat. Order in the court. Next up we will have the story arc, the plot twist of the Doctor dying at the beginning, the opener, was very interesting, and we'll be getting 2 points for Mr. Moffat. Now we will go on to The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. Nice characters, introduced quite well, and plot twists alone, and the silence will be getting 4 points for Mr. Moffat. These points are being written down by my general over there with the glasses. So, next up we have Curse of the Black Spot, another terrible one, 1 point against Mr. Moffat. Next up we have The Doctor's Wife, which was actually pretty good and beautifully made. But it is quite overrated by fans. Quiet in the court. So we will be giving 2 points for that. Next up we have Rebel Flesh and Almost Human, a boring two-parter which has some interesting elements but doesn't fall flat, so no points against or for Mr. Moffat. Now we go on to A Good Man Goes to War. This was an excellent way to show off River's story arc and connecting with Amy and Rory and showing the depth of how Amy's been treated and her baby being stolen twice. Also, the Doctor feels like he has actually been defeated, which is something new. I will give you that, Stephen Moffat. So we will be giving 5 points for Stephen Moffat. Next up, Let's Kill Hitler. Mr. Moffat, you are in crime of Let's Kill Hitler, and this is certainly going to be putting you against as showrunner, and I will be giving 4 points against Stephen Moffat for this terrible episode and horrificness that you call an episode of Doctor Who. Mr. Moffat, before I begin, what is Doctor Who to you? What is the Doctor to you?
This particular hero, they didn't give him a gun, they gave him a screwdriver to fix things. They didn't give him a tank or a warship or an X-Wing fighter, they gave him a call box from which you can call for help. And they didn't give him a superpower or pointy ears or a heat ray. They gave him an extra heart. They gave him 2 hearts. And that's an extraordinary thing. There will never come a time when we don't need a hero like the Doctor.
There's pretty brave words and good words from you there, from the archives, saying what the Doctor should be. I really respect that, and a well done speech for you, sir. However, 2 series later, you end up getting Peter Capaldi to kill off the General of the Time Lords. The Doctor never uses weapons, does he? The 2 seasons after you use that speech to the fans, you end up getting the Doctor to use the weapon. And because he's a Time Lord, you say, oh, it's like man flu. However, David Tennant was so upset of letting his reincarnation go. And you have actually written 11th Doctor to be quite grumpy at the fact that he doesn't want to go. So, I will be deducting points for that and adding 2 points for you for that lovely speech, but 4 against you for actually contradicting yourself later on in the show. That was your only visible talking in this trial, Stephen Moffat. You should have chose your words even better. Now, we have Night Terrors, which is actually a scary episode, and I watched as a kid, and it absolutely terrified me, and I was like, oh my god. But it was quite a boring episode, so I won't be giving any points for that. It contradicts itself. The Girl Who Waited was a beautiful, fabulous story. Yes, you didn't write these episodes, but you certainly had the release to let them go as scripts and probably added some details. So I will be giving you 1 point for that. Now we have A God Complex, which was an absolute fabulous story and almost letting Amy and Rory go. 1 point. 1 point for Stephen Moffat. Then we have Closing Time, another comedic story. But it does damage the Cybermen being weak. So I will be giving no points for or against Stephen Moffat. Next up we have Wedding of River Song. 5 points against Stephen Moffat. Order in the court. Yes. 5 points against Stephen Moffat, as this is diabolical and Moffat's mind going blah 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 blah, dinosaurs, historic, missy-mashy-ness to get River Song to marry the Doctor. What a dreadful finale, Mr. Moffat. What a dreadful finale. Order in the court. Now, before I leave it to my next one who will be giving points for Mr. Moffat and defending him in this jury, we will be doing something else. Mr. Moffat's Christmas specials are absolutely terrible, apart from The Husbands of River Song, and the Regeneration Stories, and The Snowman. Every other one is exempt, so we won't be doing or rating Regenerations and Christmas specials as your defence, Mr. Moffat. However, we will be ranking the actual goodbye speeches of the Regenerations as a point, if we see fit. Okay, so I will be doing the rest of this part for Series 7. So, we have Asylum of the Daleks, and I think this is a brilliant story with introducing a new companion and creating that plot twist why we still have our present companions, making this an interesting one, at least, and fans to know that this will be the future companion and then get killed off is quite a timey-wimey one, and intrigues fans to continue to watch on. Also, it shows that humanity does have their hiccups, with Amy and Rory actually breaking up because Amy can't have kids. For a family show, this deals with certain issues which are actually pretty good, so well done Stephen Moffat on that, and the Daleks were quite interesting in this story. And then we have Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, introducing Rory's dad, which is a fantastic add-on and was brilliant and comedic and brought it all up. However, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship says what it does on the tin. Dinosaurs in space. Dinosaurs in a spaceship. So, I won't be talking too much on that. However, Town Called Mercy is a phenomenal story and intrigue, and it gives the Doctor to defend this town, which kind of parallels with Time of the Doctor in his last story. Then we have Power of Three, and Power of Three is such a nice one, and it's actually the Doctor coming to Amy. However, the ending is quite quick and terrible, but we do get to defend Amy and Rory's life and see how it plays out, and then battling should they stay with the Doctor or shouldn't they. Given an interesting story, so I still stand we should get points for that episode. And of course, we have Angels Take Manhattan now, and Angels Take Manhattan was a sad one to see Amy and Rory go, and one of Stephen Moffat's finest of Series 11 writing, Series 7's writing. Then we have Bells of St. John with an introduction of a new companion from the Snowman. Seems we can't talk about Snowman. That we get the Doctor now knowing where where Clara has, who is she? She's a mystery and we need to find her. So I like that aspect of the mystery starting to begin. And Bells of St. John introduced Clara quite well. And then we have Rings of Akaten, a beautiful and underrated story of Clara's first story out, and it is beautiful at that, and just a nice little story, and actually is close enough to an actual musical episode of Doctor Who we probably won't actually get. Then we have Cold War, a nice introduction to a classic monster, the Ice Warriors, and was an interesting claustrophobic setting. Stephen Moffat's doing wonders and getting writers to do wonders with Mark Gatiss writing this episode. Then we have Hyde, which it turns out to be a dark, interesting story, then turns out to be a love story, which is actually interesting. Then we have Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS, a nice, unique story that actually portrays the Doctor to be the most mad man in the box he's ever been, and on the hunt to save Clara, not to let her die another time. Also, we get to see the Time War book, which is intriguing fans, little nugget of information leading into the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who. And we also get the Doctor's name revealed, but then wiped from existence. I like that idea. Then we have Crimson Horror, which is a nice Who Did It story with a twist, of course, of Mr. Swede, I think. Nightmare in Silver, introducing a new Cybermen, the most dangerous Cybermen, the fast, the furious Cybermen. Then we have Name of the Doctor, a phenomenal lead-up and build-up to Day of the Doctor, and introducing a load of doctors in the process, and Madame Devastra and Jenny and Strax lovely payoff as well of them turning against each other because they didn't meet the Doctor. Because without the Doctor they wouldn't have met, and time going all whiffy-woffy. But then the Doctor saving Clara one last time, stopping her from dying. I think we should have many points for this series. So nothing. I am Joy and master of points, and I shall be choosing which works and which doesn't. So we start off with Asylum of the Daleks. The Daleks don't seem to do much, and I feel like it damages the Daleks in some way. So 1 point against. Order in the court. However, I do like the idea of Amy and Rory actually dealing with details and problems and actually breaking up because Amy can't have kids. 4 points for Mr. Moffat. And we go on to now. Dinosaurs in a spaceship. Yes, it introduces the dad and it says what it does on the tin. However, their dad should have been introduced earlier. Where were all these family members? Mr. Russell T Davies made every family member prime to his series and made it relatable. Where is the relatability on bringing Rory's dad in for the finale? We don't get Amy's Pond's family that much apart from the Big Bang, so then we get Rory's dad for Series 7, and is an absolute gem. However, it's too late. 2 points against Stephen Moffat for this. Town Called Mercy was a phenomenal story and shall get 1 point, and he has probably put something towards this story. Now we have Power of 3, and an interesting one, and I do like the Doctor coming towards them, and it shows a different fun, uplifting and bringing unit back story with Kate Stewart. 2 points for this story. Now we have Angels Take Manhattan. Yes, Angels Take Manhattan was a phenomenal story. However, the Doctor could just park his TARDIS a couple of meters away in the same year and go back and save Amy and Rory. However, the Weeping Angels would probably follow, making this a two-part and so on to try and escape the Weeping Angels. Maybe Moffat should have done that. However, I won't be giving any points for this, other than 1 for Mr. Moffat, as the farewell was quite sad and got me a little bit teary. Now we have The Snowman we won't be talking about, and we have Bells of St. John. Bells of St. John was an interesting one to begin with. However, it was quite boring and flat and had nothing much to do. It was interesting to produce the internet and to introduce Clara again, but that was it. No points. Silence in the court. Rings of Akaten is an underrated gem and will get 2 points for it. No questions asked. Cold War now, and yes, I really enjoy the classic aspect, but no points for this story and no points for anything against it. Hyde is a boring one that won't get any points either, so don't try it with it was dark and then it was lovey-dovey. I don't care. Next up we have Journey into the Centre of the TARDIS, and we will be giving no points for that either. Silence in the court, my rules stand. And that is only because it is a good story, but actually isn't, because I enjoy it, doesn't make it good. A lot of fans doesn't like this story, and I can see why. Crimson Horror. No points for this story. Nightmare in Silver, 2 points against for making the Sidemen overrated. My rules stand. Name of the Doctor. 1 point for this story, building up to the 50th anniversary. Now we will take a break and return for Peter Capaldi's era, and then we will condemn whether Stephen Moffat is worthy or not. Now back from the break, and we have 45 for Stephen Moffat and 38 against. It is very close between whether he was a good showrunner and a bad showrunner. Let's begin into Peter Capaldi's era now. I think we should get points for the 50th anniversary, and we should get points for the actual regeneration at the end, which was quite suiting for Matt Smith. And then we also should get, as I look at the box set, Deep Breath was a nice introduction to a darker Doctor, and letting Clara, is he a good man, is he a bad man, and him leaving Clara and creating mystery and twist, and the Doctor trying to find out who he was. Into the Dalek was a nice, unique idea. We've never put the Doctor in that situation. Then we go into Robert of Sherwood, which was a nice story by Mark Gatiss and an interesting one, and a little bit of a spoof with Robin Hood being in the title. And then we go into Listen, which is an interesting dark story in Who's Under the Bed. And then we have Time Heist, which was a very fun, uplifting time heist, robbing the bank. Then we have Caretaker, in my personal opinion, one of my favourites from Series 10, as I just really love the story, and it is the Doctor being a teacher. We've had that, so now we're going to have the Doctor being a janitor, and Clara actually being teacher, and we get to see Danny and Clara develop throughout all these stories we've mentioned so far, leading into the finale where Danny dies, and within these stories we get to see Missy, who is she, building up of the death. And then we get to see Missy, and it turns out to be the Master. She creates chaos with the Cybermen, and so on. I really like that idea. And it makes the series quite dark, dealing with death and afterlife. Killing of the Moon, I'm not going to mention that in my comments, sorry. Next up we have Mummy on the Orient Express, which is a phenomenal story, and brings out Peter Capaldi at his best. And then we get Flatline, creating Clara at her best, and actually foreshadowing for Series 9, her actually becoming the Doctor, in my eyes. Then we have Into the Forest of the Night, which a lot of fans don't like, so I won't be talking about that. And then we have Dark Water, Death in Heaven, a brilliant 2-part finale. And I'd say we should get a lot of points for that. I will judge that, and yes, we will get 5 points for Day of the Doctor. 5 points for Time of the Doctor, with the speech quite fittingly for 11, and 5 points for introducing the Peter Capaldi quite well and giving Was He a Good Man quite an interesting way, and 2 points for Missy's entrance and her being the Master, 2 points for the finale, 2 points for units, and yes, I do like the Caretaker as well, so I'll give a point there as well. Yes. And Flatline was a brilliant one, but won't be getting any points because that relates to a later series with Clara becoming the Doctor. Yes, Mummy on the Orient Express was pretty good too. 1 point there. Now, I can't give you points for Into the Forest of the Night. 5 points against for that monstrosity. And I won't be giving points for Danny Pink. He will be getting 1 point against Stephen Moffat for that character. In fact, the whole series, he was pretty much bland. He's getting another 5 points against Stephen Moffat for Series 8. Quiet in the court. Yes. And yes, I really think Series 8, that's all that should be counted for this series. I will be judging Series 9 and be choosing whether they should get points or not. Now, Last Christmas is not counted, and luckily so. I will give you 5 points instantly against that story. Now, Magician's Apprentice and The Witch of Familiar, 2 points against the Doctor's character suddenly changing. However, this story is an interesting one. It brings the Master back in an interesting way and creates tension between Clara. Also, that gets 2 points. Then we have 2 points for bringing on Scarrow and making the shock twist. Then you get 1 point for the cliffhanger of killing the TARDIS, getting rid of the Sonic, killing Missy and Clara. And Davros' speech between 12 and 10 gets a point as well. However, the sewers was quite a boring idea to destroy and end this two-parter, so it will be getting 1 point against. Now we have Under the Lake and Before the Flood. No marks for either. There's good points and there's bad points, and I think there's no point on adding or taking away any for this point. Before the flood, the woman who lived and the woman who died will get 5 points against Stephen Moffat, and another 5 for the second part of Monstrosity. Then we have Zygon Inversion and Zygon Invasion. We will give 4 points for this two-parter, and the Zygons were working quite well, and I really enjoyed these two-parters. However, it did create conflict between the humans and the Zygons and worked quite well with Bonnie, and Clara gives Moffat a point for her acting skills. Next up we have Sleep No More. 5 points against Stephen Moffat. 1 point for trying something different with the camera design of making it like a game. Then we have Face the Raven. Yes, Face the Raven will give you 2 points. Then we have Heaven Sent. 3 points for that. 6 points against for Hell Bent. Order in the Court. Yes. Now we go on to Series 10. We will not be talking about Dr. Mysterio, thank God. But also, I do like River Song's two-part story, so sadly we won't be talking about that. We'll be defending Moffat for Series 10. The pilot, yes, I really enjoyed it, and it was an interesting way to take Bill, a new companion, and we learn that she is fostered, she is coloured, and we learn she is gay, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be kept bringing up each story, as the interviews keep saying throughout Series 10. And Bill is a strong character and actually one of my personal favourite companions of all time, and I really like Nardell in this as a background character and then gets brought in by episode 5, just like Rory was in series 5 of Doctor Who. So yes, I really enjoy that aspect, and the pilot should at least get 4 points, sir. And Smile was a nice introduction to the future and a nice uplifting story, and I really enjoyed it. And then we have Thin Ice, who was quite a nice, unique story to the blast of the past and was interesting, and there wasn't really an alien in this story, not a proper one at least, which creates something different for Doctor Who to go down. Then we have Knock Knock, which was an interesting, dark, historic house eating people and absorbing people with a plot twist of the son the not being the dad sort of scenario from the mom being all this creature made out of wood, which was actually quite a creepy aspect. And then we have Oxygen, and that is one of the best cliffhangers. I'm still blind story. Actually, let me borrow your glasses, sir. Thank you. Nardell, I can't see everything ever again. Ow. Retake. Nardell, I can't see anything ever again. I'm still blind. Epic scene. Thank you for clapping. Round of applause to me, yes. Brilliant acting. And then we have the next part. Extremis. A nice introduction and Donald Trump reference. I did laugh. Then we have these monk creatures and them actually practicing on a parallel Earth. This is one of the most timey-wimey Moffat's got, and it was paying off so well. And I did like the dark aspect of Peter Capaldi saying, it's like Mario finding out he's in a video game, and him deleting himself from the game because he's sick of dying. I do like that. Then we have Pyramid of Mars, a brilliant story that is on about timers and reality going all wrong, and Bill actually saving the Doctor, making it a 3-parter of Lie of the Land, which a lot of people don't like as fans, but tough. I am helping Stephen Moffat here and saying it is a phenomenal story, and I really enjoy it, and I actually think it is the best out of the 3. Order in the court, please. Yes. Next up we have Emperors of Mars, an interesting one, bringing Victorian soldiers to Mars and bringing the Ice Warriors back for a nice little battle and conference against the humans. This time the humans are the invaders of these aliens, which is a nice unique take on it. Then we have Eaters of Light, which was actually bringing a classic writer back in the show, which is phenomenal. Well done, Moffat. And then we actually got an interesting story of bringing the crow birds into this, and a fun fact for the audience to learn, getting a bit of history that crows can actually speak and talk in real life. That is a fun, it's not just Doctor Who, it actually works in real life. Crows can actually talk if we kept talking to them. Then we have World Enough and Time, do I say more, a dark story, an interesting story, and we finally get the reveal of, well, I can keep killing myself, former Prime Minister. Hello, Missy, and I'm very worried about my future. Loving the cliffhanger with John Sim there, and John Sim standing there like, haha, the Cybermen, pain, and Misty going, oh, Doctor, I love that finale and that two-parter. Then we have The Doctor Falls, which was an absolute banger and is, if not the best finale of all time for Doctor Who. Two Masters, Cybermen, Peter Capaldi refusing to regenerate, Nardell on the move, and we have Bill as a Cyberman, Mondasian Cyberman, and all these versions coming together, and at the end, you might say, the original, the first Doctor. Thank you. This is my points for all for that. Yes, we are coming to the end of our trial now, and I do agree with a lot of them points, yes. So, let me just have a look, and let me judge. I will be giving 5 points for the pilot and introduction. I will be giving 2 points to Smile for a nice, easy adventure for the future. Then I will be giving Thin Ice nothing, and I will also be giving Knock Knock nothing, and Oxygen will get 5 points for Mr. Moffat. Then we have Extremis, and we have the Three Monk trilogy as a whole. I will give, there are bad points towards this and good points, so they won't be getting any points for Stephen Moffat's help there. Then we have Eaters of Light, which was actually quite a boring one for fans to watch. So no point but 1 against Mr. Moffat for that. However, I do like the idea of bringing more classic writers back into Doctor Who. And then we have World Enough and Time and The Doctor Falls. 2 points for each story, making them 1 point each for each story. And bringing some new elements and the Master in gets an extra point. And now we move on to Peter Capaldi saying goodbye as the Doctor. A fabulous story, and we're getting 2 points for that. And there we go, Mr. Moffat. Your trial is complete. We will add up the scores now, and then we will convict you whether you're guilty or not guilty. Was you a good showrunner or was you a bad showrunner? We've created all the points against you and what you've done wrong and what you've actually done right. Let's add up the score. Judging by the scores at half-time, it is 56 for Stephen Moffat and 33 against Stephen Moffat, sir. Bringing the scores, adding up the first half of this into this trial and the bad score, 71 against Stephen Moffat. 71 against Mr. Moffat. This is bad, Moffat. This is looking very bad. However, sir, adding up both scores to make it good, 101 good things for Mr. Moffat. Oh, Mr. Moffat, well done. 101 good things and 71 bad things as a showrunner, making you actually a really good showrunner. And I would also, if I could, give points because you actually did Sherlock and Doctor Who at the same time, which was interesting. But I won't be giving points for that because you've already got 101 good points for doing Doctor Who alone, and 71 bad points. I would advise you to look over yourself in future of doing showrunners for getting 71 bad. However, you are not guilty and not for this trial. So yes, Mr. Moffat, well done. You are free to go and not be put in jail or hell, wherever we were sending you at the start of this video. It's been a long video, I forgot. But yes, and you can go off writing the next Sherlock. What's that? You don't want to write another show again? Oh, okay. Who's next to be judged? I do believe, sir, it is, Chris Chibnall. We're putting Chris Chibnall on trial. Oh no. Just throw him in the jail. Lock away the key. Hello guys, that was just a fun little video and putting Stephen Moffat in trial. Basically what I thought he did well as a showrunner and what he thought he did bad as a showrunner. It was just a comedic sketch of it really. Yes, that's what I think. He did good points and he had bad points to talk about. But I just thought, you know what? The second Doctor's been on trial and the sixth Doctor's been on trial. Let's put Stephen Moffat in trial. Was he a good showrunner or was he a bad one? Comment down below what you thought. And yes, this is my opinion and it was a bit over the top with the trial, of course, but they're my honest opinions. Stephen Moffat is a good showrunner, and I actually did add them up as along. So actually, if it turned out he wasn't a good showrunner, I would have said it. I was going along, giving points along each trial and going from all, and he actually come out on top. And yeah, he is a good showrunner, and I really enjoy his stories. There are some bad ones, and there is bad things he's done. 71 bad things I've counted, and 101 good things. So yes, that was my long video on whether Stephen Moffat was a good writer or a bad one. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, rate, subscribe, and I will be doing a next video very soon. I hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for more on Go Doctor Who. Subscribe. Let's get this. Let's keep getting subscribers going. We're doing so well at the moment, and I hope you enjoyed the video.